Let's do it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, your eyes do not deceive you. It really is, once again, not your normal Sunday show. And Wayne Steiger is really here.
Yes.
And I, Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower, am really here. I thought Cynthia and Wayne were going to have their own show. They started chatting. But we are glad to be back. And,
Yes.
you know, the as Mark Twain once said, the reports of our demise have been greatly exaggerated. And here we are, Wayne. Welcome back.
Jeffrey, it's good to see you. A little sabbatical. And, hey, you know, thanks to all the loyal listeners. I mean, you and I were talking, got inundated, you know.
Yeah, I know it was Shakespeare said, absence makes the heart grow fonder. And I didn't really ever believe that until this, because we got all kinds of, we miss you. And it's very nice to be missed, because usually you and I get the other end of that. I'm glad those guys are gone.
Don't let the door hit you in the ass as you're walking out.
Exactly. Don't let the door hit you where the rat bastard split you.
Exactly. It's, well, you know, hey, listen, it's good to be back. So how is the freaking world on your end? I mean,
getting more exciting every day, literally. It really is.
Excellent.
I was finally reading, I know I've had Joseph Atwell on 3 or 4 times, and he's coming back again. But I finally read, I was actually waiting for him to send me autograph copies, and he will, but he's a busy guy. So finally, I wanted to read Caesar's Messiah, so I just bought it. And oh, man, I'm telling you, what a profound book. Probably, I think, one of the most important works that I've ever read.
Wow.
And Wayne, one thing is a throwaway line in the book, but I saw it, I researched it, and the most amazing thing, Wayne, how are we so stupid? Do you know the word gospel, just the word gospel, evangelion in Greek? That word was invented by the Roman emperor cult, and it means declarations of the good news of the great and divine Roman emperor. So, Wayne, the very gospel, the word gospel, is a Roman invention.
The story of Titus is in Vespasian. It's amazing how many Christians don't have a clue to either one.
Oh, it's so sad. It's so funny. I mean,
and
it got us so good. And you just have to take your hat off to the Romans. They stuck it to us, and they stuck it to us good, and they meant to do it.
I mean, they were some smart dudes, man.
Smart, black humor. They loved it, and they pulled it off.
That cult of Bacchus is, you know, which became, you know, the cult of Dionysus, which is integrated into the Christian mythology. It's mind coitus of the ultimate. That's all I can say.
It really is.
It's like, okay, what? Yeah. What? Yeah.
You know, I've always had this feeling that Tracy Dyer says, so we should start saying, thank you, Titus.
Thank you, Titus. I love that. I'm going to get a T-shirt with that on it.
Absolutely. We, you know, I always had the feeling and the knowledge that that the Romans, that we knew they had edited and vetted the New Testament because it was written under Roman occupation, and they had this group called the censors that would read everything that subject peoples wrote. But the fact of the matter is, Wayne, the New Testament was written by the Romans, and it was written by the same guy that wrote the works of Josephus. So it's a short list.
Yeah, and the thing that really got me, because, you know, when I was really into the indoctrination thing, you know, Rhema Bible College, you know, the whole bit, Josephus is the validation for Christianity with its link to Judaism. I never knew his first name was Flavius.
No, how about that?
What the hell? By the way,
they conveniently forget that part, don't they?
Yes, they do. I want to make a shameless plug. I have Mr. Kent Humphreys coming on Tuesday at noon on my channel. We just talked about this book. I just want to make that shameless plug in there because
Wayne,
he's right.
Did you read that book yet? You got there?
Yes. I was rereading it again last night. And
so you know that's just an intro to a big book that he has.
Like,
so I haven't got the big one yet.
It's a big one. I'll see what we can do about getting you a copy of it. So, but I want to get back to Flavius. I mean, I didn't know who the Flavians were. Like, what?
Interesting bunch, huh?
Yeah, smart bastards they are.
And how
then you
interesting that most of the early Christian converts were Flavians.
imagine that.
Imagine that.
I can't. And how about Bernice? No, Bernice.
Bernice.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, that was a cunning woman.
It was most likely Bernice and Josephus and Alexander that started Christianity.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were the authors.
And there's where you get your Trinity.
Exactly. Boom. They didn't miss anything. And everything is something.
So
when you know what gospel means, and then you go back to the New Testament and you're reading the word gospel, it changes your whole perspective.
this leads me to the next question in my mind, and I have read so many books where they talk about the Christ. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, the cat never lived. There was never a physical dude in the way it's being portrayed. So whose words are we reading?
Are you asking me?
Yes, I mean, it says the Christ, the Lord said, etc. Well, I know what Lord means literally. It means, and there's no need for translation other than it means ball.
Yeah.
Baal. I know who Baal is.
Yeah.
But so what's this Christ message?
Well, yeah, that's where you start trying to figure out. And the New Testament for sure is mainly, the New Testament is a Roman writing. The whole goal was to see, no matter what Titus did, and this is according to Atwell, and I agree 100%, no matter what Titus did, he couldn't get the Jews or these new people, the message of the anointing, to worship him. He tortured them, whatever. He couldn't get them to worship him. And he wanted them to worship him, not just because he mandated it, but he wanted worship. So the New Testament and the Christ was invented so that all these people would end up worshiping Titus and not know they were worshiping Titus. And that's exactly what's happened. When you're worshiping the Christ through the gospel, you're worshiping the Son of God in the New Testament. That's Titus, and you're worshiping him.
Because
now,
Vespasian
is, how much post-Titus stuff has found its way into the New Testament? That's like a Jesuit agenda would be my question.
Well, am I correct on this? Wasn't Constantine a Flavian?
Yes.
I mean,
but he was a little, he was 200 years later.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was definitely a Flavian.
He was in the bloodline, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it was the Julian emperors up through Nero, and then the Flavian emperors became with Titus's dad, which was, what was his name?
Vespasian.
Vespasian, yep.
Yeah. And in fact, it was Titus who made the petition to the Rome Senate to elevate his dad to a Caesar, which is a god.
And that plays into the whole thing too, which is weird. Not many people know this. I know this from reading history, a lot of history, that Titus didn't want to destroy the temple in Jerusalem. He wanted to give it to his dad.
Yeah.
And he did everything he could to not destroy the temple. But those crazy guys he had no other choice but to finally do it. And the only way that he was able to finally do it is because Tiberius, his right-hand man, was a Jew whose dad had paid for and supervised the construction of the great doors of the temple, and he finally told Titus the secret to breaching them.
Yeah, how thick were those? I mean, they were
thick.
I mean, and no easy task, right? Because that was the whole thing.
Can you imagine the stuff? But and it's so dark and it's so sad, but to me, it's so funny. The whole idea of communion, that started from a lady in Jerusalem during the siege named Mary eating her own baby. And that's why we have communion. Every time you have communion, somewhere Titus is laughing. How sad.
Jeffrey, I mean, literally the synchronicity is off the chart here. So I'm in there, I get up really early in the morning, and I'm meditating, and I'm thinking on this thing on communion. And I'm thinking to myself, Wayne, what the hell what were you thinking? I mean, I was practicing cannibalism.
Yeah.
And that's one of the key I mean, What were we thinking? Jeffrey, what were we thinking?
I don't know, Wayne. I really don't.
It sickens me now. I mean, even metaphorically, taking it on the foundation of what communion is supposed to be doing, eating, and it was always that thing, was it in John where the split came? When he said, you have to eat my flesh and, drink my blood in order to be my followers.
Yeah,
And
John 6:66 says, and from that time, many turned away and followed him no more. They're like, eat your flesh, drink your blood. You crazy.
so that's John 6:66.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Is there a mystery connecting here? I know,
about that?
Yeah.
How about that?
Just a
But Wayne,
coincidence.
how come it never clicked to us for so many years? We're eating flesh, we're drinking blood, and we thought it was the holiest, most reverent thing. We're searching our hearts. What were we thinking, man?
I got to tell you, we were channeling big time. I remember times being down at the altar, brother. You've seen it. And I mean, you're crying your heart out. You're feeling God. I mean, you're feeling this thing, this euphorism that, you'll do anything because you think it's pleasing something that now you look at it, I don't know if I really even want to be known by it.
It's just, we know what the word gospel now means. We talked about that. It's invented by the Roman Flavian cult. And words mean things, and words are frequencies, words are harmonics every time we say it. But then it went through, when they first brought it when we first brought it out of the Roman cult and into normal parlance, it was called God spell, just like you say. And then they turned it into go spell. You can't make this stuff up.
I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. And, I read, by the way, did you hear that the Pope, and I quote, said this on the Vatican Times, that the resurrection was not a physical resurrection?
Yeah, I saw he was quoted as that. I don't know if I'm confident that he said it or not, because that guy has made up stuff before. But
is this the same guy that made up the last? Okay,
same guy.
Well, if that ever comes out, I mean, what do you got left?
What do you got left? But I mean, he'd just be telling the truth.
He would be. Absolutely.
Why are people afraid of you and me, harmless little fuzzballs? They don't want to talk to us. They don't want to confront us. They just want to talk bad about us behind our back and make fun of our listeners.
I don't know. I think the word must out.
Wrong, Sterling.
I think I was yesterday looking at this. I looked at the YouTube report. Over nearly 6,000 people have left because I guess they're not digging what we have to say here. I don't know.
It's craziness. It really is.
Mean, it more and more each day outside of what you and I talk about validates what we are talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm going, so what did we miss?
I think there's some people, especially, and I don't want to name names because there's no such thing as bad publicity, but some of the people that attack me, I'm afraid I'm convinced they actually are entities. They're
I believe that
bodies ruled by entities.
I've been on my channel. We're getting into the Naga and the whole background of the Naga and the synchronicity between Rex over at Leak Project and the other channels that are out there. You did a great thing this week on Matthew 24.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And the whole thing is that when you start looking at this now in a cataclysm point of view, well, the whole Naga story, or what we call Genesis, is not a story about creation. It's a story of survival after a cataclysm.
Yeah, and it literally is.
Literally.
When you read it straight from the literal language.
I'm reading this book here, the book
of Lamech
of Cain.
Huh.
This is mind coitus of the ultimate type.
Is it?
Jeffrey? Yeah, it comes from the. It was taken out of the vaults of the Vatican. The priest who brings it out actually brings the whole story out. So it's the translation of this book. This God that is supposedly the Judaic God, who's now the Christian God. Wow, this dude, he's cold, man. I want to tell you what.
Is the worst.
Oh. And Cain, according to this translation, was marked with leprosy.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, it was the mark on Cain's forehead was the mark of what they call the white rotting flesh.
Oh boy.
And he was known also by the smell.
I'll bet. Putrefying flesh has to have a pretty distinct smell.
Yeah. And this is his offspring. And Lamech meets a Nephilim named Yuval. And the thing about this thing, Yuval introduces Lamech to the Leviathan.
No kidding.
Male, female. And the Leviathan comes out of the ocean, is still alive, and also can transform itself to a terrestrial creature, which we know as dragons.
No kidding.
And Lamech, by the teachings of the Nephilim, the Raphaim, that's what he's called here. Yuval is called a Raphaim, which is giant, teaches Lamech how to subdue under a spell Leviathan. Leviathan then becomes Lamech's executioner.
Oh, wow.
So if you pissed him off, all Lamech had to do was 3 times and point his finger, and Leviathan would come and consume the flesh. The other thing that struck
just like Beetlejuice.
Yeah, exactly, the sandworms. What got me here was, they call Earth hell, and there is dead bodies everywhere. And that is what Leviathan feeds off of.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's a mind blower, Jeffrey.
The Leviathan feeds off of dead bodies?
Mm-hmm. There were many, many dead bodies everywhere. There was no rain, and there were very few women. Women were prized more than anything else. There was
some things never change, Wayne.
Doesn't change. Widespread rape. It gets really detailed of what this people were like. And Lamech tries to approach God, Yahweh.
Wayne Tracy says Earth is hell and most people here are dead.
Tracy, I got to tell you, I asked the question on my channel, Jeffrey, if God is perfect, why would he put his creation on a planet that is unstable, very unstable? And then if he did, why isn't he powerful enough to stop the cataclysm?
Well, if he's such a powerful God and such a perfect God, then how from his own mouth are like 90% of the people he created going to hell? I mean, if I had a guy working for me that only had a 10% success rate, I'd fire him.
Seriously.
He's supposed to be God. I mean, if you're working at McDonald's and only 10% of the Big Macs that you make are okay, you're not going to work at McDonald's very long. But
you're
this
not going to be in
God
business.
Can have 90% failure rate, and he still gets worshipped as God. How does he get that job?
So I know this is like taking a 90-degree turn here. Explain to me this Kanye West. His new business model, and I know he sees that. Jesus has been very good to me.
It's very easy to explain Kanye, Wayne.
It's all about the cash.
It is, but it's even deeper than that. It's the same thing as what was the girl's name from King of Queens? Lee, that girl that was on King of Queens, and
yeah, I know, the Scientology gal.
Yeah, and It's funny. she's doing King of Queens. She's on top of the world. Everything's great. No problem. All of a sudden, her career starts tanking. And then she gets, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I'm supposed to go expose Scientology. Same thing with Kanye. The record sales go down a little bit. Oh, wait a minute. I need to embrace baby Jesus. Nobody does it at the top of their career. It's only when things start going bad. Like B.J. Thomas, like Nicolas Cage making Left Behind movies. Come on. It's an easy progression.
Well,
Leah Remini or whatever.
Yeah, and I was thinking that, and what I attribute this to is that this is a new fad. I mean, I think that Justin Bieber's got the whole thing there going on in LA.
Another one. When was the last time Justin Bieber was on top of the charts?
Yeah, exactly. And so now it's becoming a spectacle as to see whose stars are sitting in the front row.
And didn't Joel bring him in?
He did last week, sold it out. Now here's the side story.
When is church going to start selling seats, Wayne? When do you have to start?
They already have
to get in. Seriously?
Conway charges $20 per person in his whatever his church is up in Michigan.
So you got to pay $20 to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Do they still take an offering?
I'm sure they do. I mean, God's got to get his 10%, baby. And so
somebody said it the other day. God is great. God is good, and He's made everything in the world but pad with money.
And again, I hear James T. Kirk. What does God need money for?
What does God need with Kanye?
I mean, I'm lost here. So I heard from someone who actually was down there that the backstory was that you could get Jesus is the man or whatever his thing is. They're selling packages of where you get the T-shirt, an album, and this is all a packet for $290. They sold out.
And as bad as it was, and as bad as we were, Wayne.
Did we fade out? Was it me? Jeffrey? Well, looks like I'm still good. What happened to you?
I don't know. I was just saying that if Kanye, as bad as things were, if Kanye had ever walked into one of Brother Shambach's meetings or he'd ever walked into Family Worship Center with Jimmy Swaggart, they'd have rebuked him.
I can just see that I'm playing that in my mind.
It's so things have even gotten worse, if possible, since we left.
And here we are coming up on the season of where the world worships the material God, whatever that is.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah, Lynn and I don't participate in that anymore. So
let me get this straight, Wayne. You can charge them $20 to come in and then still take an offering.
And then sell them a Jesus man or whatever his thing is, another package.
$300.
$300.
And they sell out.
They sell out. Yeah.
When I was a pastor, I could never figure out how did the Jehovah's Witnesses get those people to go door to door, and I can't get nobody to invite their neighbor to church. How do they do it?
They're using a different type of hoodoo for their voodoo. That's all I know, because
I never knew that kind.
That hoodoo doesn't, it's, and now we used to have a lot of Mormons who came through, part of their street work that's required of them.
Yeah.
We used to have Jehovah Witnesses, and we used to have even some Baptists. I think our house has now been circulated with a big X on it.
What would
Don't go there.
What would be a funny Saturday Night Live skit if they actually did real news and stuff? If you had the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons fighting over turf, that would be hilarious.
Oh, I was going to throw an Amish in there too, but
because it has to happen, right? Sometimes the Jehovah's Witnesses have to run on the street where the Mormons are working it. What do?
And
I
know
have like a dance off, like on what was the model movie? Blue Steel. What was
Footloose,
that?
What do you? That is
with Ben
funny.
Stiller.
Oh,
there's so many ways you could go with that. That would be fun.
And they come down on us because I tell people all the time. I said, this Christianity, it's a very new religion, less than 500 years old, and they couldn't keep it together, when they split, from the Catholics, because we don't want to be associated with that kind. But we'll take your Bible. Thank you very much. Oh, no, we didn't even take your Bible. We made our own.
Kimmy Moss, what's up?
Hey, Kimmy, how y'all doing?
You know Kimmy.
I certainly do.
You had dinner with Kimmy.
Indeed, we did. I know her and Lynn texting, etc.
Yeah, Kim is everybody's best friend. You can't be friends with Kim unless you're best friends.
That's exactly it. She's a sweetie.
There's nothing wrong with that. And Mike is very happy because she talks to somebody else for a little while. Kim talks, man. And Kim can't tell types of birds for shit either. But that's beside the subject.
Weren't they heading to Colorado at one point?
Yeah, they have a place in Pagosa now.
Yeah. Oh, they do. Okay. Up there with the Rex man.
They do, down there with Rex.
Yes. Well, they finally got some snow down there, so it's fun. Yeah.
And Kim's husband, Mike, is a great chiropractor. He's going to be coming on the channel and talking about health and chiropractic and stuff like that. Mike,
if you lived close by, I'd have you do an adjustment, but
he's the best. I understand, Wayne. I don't do chiropractic. I'm gonna start doing it. I know I should be doing it, but I know Mike, and Mike saved me from fiasco in the desert. So I owe maybe my life.
That anniversary it just happened, wasn't it?
Pretty close to it. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
This time a year ago, I was almost killed in the desert. But anyway, Mike,
down in the desert.
He really is probably one of the top chiropractors in the country for sure.
You really have to have a trust.
Pasco County, Florida, there is no other place to go.
I love it, and that's not a shameless plug. That's just the truth of advertising.
It is the truth.
You have to have that trust with that chiropractor. I had one time.
Somebody that believes in Nostradamus, who's a proven Jesuit conspirator, expose anything for you? I'm just wondering. Sorry, chat room.
I don't know. I've read the Quatrains, and I think they're somewhat vague, but he got lucky in a couple. Vague. It's like you said, if you can be right 10% of the time, you're a hell of a prophet.
Yeah, I mean, even a blind squirrel finds a nut now and then. You make enough prophecies, we're going to hit one of them. And when people only count your good ones, and you're in good place. That's a good place to be. That's like being God. You only have to be right 10% of the time, and everybody will still worship you. I don't get it.
Gets back to my whole point that humans, if they're worshiping God or an image, then whatever they're doing, I realize that coming out of the Pentecostal evangelical claim it, name it group, that we were master channelers.
Oh, absolutely you were. And Tracy says even a broken clock is right twice a day.
True.
Unless it's a broken digital clock, but then it wouldn't be working.
Or a military clock.
Yeah, military clock's only right once a day.
Yeah. But then you've got much more of the day, a lot more numbers, right?
Critical Thinker has taken her dogs to the chiropractor.
Okay. I could dig that.
I never heard of adjusting a dog.
I know Dancer loves puppy massages. When I just, start rubbing, she's like all over that, man. It's like, it's like,
I'll bet.
Give me more. And your cat,
Rooney, he likes massage.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Rooney is having a somewhat of a challenge maintaining a healthy weight.
So Rooney like to eat?
Rooney likes his meaties. So
how big is Rooney getting these days?
Well, let's say he's probably a little bit over. He's an ounce or two over his ideal weight. Let's just say that.
Well, Dancer's a couple ounces as well. I mean, that dog likes to eat, and she doesn't like the snow.
Oh, that's funny. Rooney has only seen the snow once, and he wasn't a big fan either.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
What did you think of that?
He stepped on it like 2 or 3 times, and that was it.
Said, forget that.
Yeah, too cold, too wet.
Now, you're going to be doing your ice dunking this year?
I've already been doing it for about 3 weeks.
Okay.
Had to wait for the lake to get under 57, and it is now, trust me.
Chilly?
Yeah, the water is now dropped under 40, so it's brisk.
That's the only time all men are truly created equal.
It's brisk.
That's all I
But
can say.
after about 20 minutes, Wayne, you get the opposite effect. That's all I'm going to say. It promotes good circulation.
Speaking of which, when they found the Mastodon
Speaking of what, Wayne?
in 1901 in Siberia, when they found the Mastodon that was flash frozen, it froze in less than apparently 7 seconds.
Wow.
But here was the interesting thing. It got frozen with an erection.
That's interesting. Less than 7 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, it puts a whole new phrase of, baby, it's cold out there.
Yeah, I guess so. Wow.
Yeah.
That I didn't know, Wayne. I learned the most interesting facts from you.
Well, I've been teaching on the Adam and Eve story, the story of Cataclysm. And, it makes perfect sense now when you read the story. It's like, okay, yeah, this isn't a story about creation. This is about, human beings being able to survive after the cataclysm and literally surviving.
Yeah. I see Kimmy Moss in the channel again. Kimmy Moss is the only person I've ever met who can drive like a 50-foot RV, diesel pusher, text and take video on her cell phone all at the same time.
That's multitasking
of the tasking.
Oh, now that is wild. So
Scott Severini says sex in the cold can be exhilarating. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in a nudist camp in my youth, but I'm glad it was warm.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have the
take out the in the cold and just leave it at sex can be exhilarating.
Yeah.
Cold,
yeah.
warm, lukewarm, hot.
I think our ancestors found that out as well. I mean,
no, it's speaking of your Mastodon, isn't there such a thing as a death erection?
Yes.
So maybe that's what happened to the Mastodon.
Who was it that I said that I can't remember who it was, Jeffrey, but the experience of death is the experience of not pain, but of the ultimate orgasm.
Interesting.
According to what she said, and it kind of makes sense, that when all the nerve endings are going off at the same time, which is the death throes, kind of would make sense.
Yeah. So we have somebody asking, what do you guys believe? Can you give me a summary or synopsis of what you believe? My answer would be, if you really want to know, watch some videos. That's my answer.
Yeah. Mine is this.
We're divine, we're sovereign, we're free, and you've been sold a bill of goods.
Yeah. Listen, I believe that there is something of a single source, but it's beyond our comprehension. I mean, how would you describe blue to a blind person?
Yeah. And you're not filled with original sin. You got the spark of divinity.
No, there is no sin.
No.
I've said it publicly, and I'll continue to say it. I have rejected all the world gods. I reject the Jesus story. I reject the whole premise of the Abrahamic, I don't know, what would you say? The Abrahamic God spell.
It is exactly that.
Yeah.
Because somebody got mad. I got fired from my radio show because I was.
Why? I don't understand that,
Too hot to handle, too much of the Jesus stuff. That the quote I got back was, he said that about my Lord and Savior.
Oh,
yeah.
So
then I got this email. I heard that you said that Jesus Christ was a pedophile. Is that true? And I'm like, well, yes and no. The Bible has a story that makes us think that, I don't know if he was a pedophile or not, but Jesus was in bed with a naked boy. But the good news is he wasn't real. They were just trying to make us think of that. So I said, And the bottom line is that neither Jesus nor Santa were pedophiles.
You really did piss some people off. I mean, I'm just going to lay it out there. I mean, I love it. I mean, you blew some circuits, my friend.
And I think there's more to follow, but, you know.
Wait, well done. Well done. Why is it that people can't handle that?
I don't know, man. Somebody says, well, at least Jesus dressed his buddy in fine linen. There's somebody that's actually read the Bible.
Yeah, yeah. Well, then you have the other side of the coin is that, you know, he had his harem that was following him everywhere, financing him.
12 dudes?
No, the women.
Oh, okay. The dudes and the women. Well, at least he was
bisexual.
Inclusive. He was inclusive.
Yeah.
Where do we go when we die? My hope is to go wherever I want to when I die, and not have somebody herd me to a place that I don't want to go.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's becoming more and more clear. You're going to live out your reality of what your perception of the next life is going to be, and you may be trapped there until you finally realize that it's all up here.
Yeah, you're going to be ushered into a place consistent with your expectations by some entity that's going to feed off of you until you wake up and realize, oh, I don't have to be here unless I want to be.
Yeah. My attitude is that don't, and I'm going to have to give you the credit for that. Don't pull that con. Get that con out of my face.
Get that con out of my face.
I know what that, you know. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, here's the thing. People ask this all the time, Jeffrey. Think about it logically, folks.
Here's one, Wayne. Somebody said when Jeff said that when you let Jesus Christ into your heart, you're possessed. That's when it hit me. And it's true.
Yeah.
Usually you ask Jesus into your heart and the Father. So that's two entities you're asking in. How do you know who they are? And then you know from the Bible that each one can bring in at least 7 more worse than they are. So you get 16 for the price of 2. What a deal.
And I'll just bring this out. Here's my problem with Christianity. All my life, in which, Jeff, you and I have talked about this, you know, nearly 5 decades for me, probably longer for you. But the thing is that I was told witchcraft, the occult, Gnosticism, you don't try to speak to the dead, you don't try to pray to the dead. But yet I was taught that I am to bring a dead person who died, ask them to come and take possession of my soul, and then I'm going to ask for the infilling of a Holy Spirit, and if it's a spirit, it can only be a dead spirit.
And don't forget covering yourself with their blood, Wayne.
Covering their blood, exactly. That is a black magic ritual for what we would call soul occupation.
But Wayne, smart people, that if you explain that to them, they'd say, oh, that's demonic. Oh, that's satanic. Oh, that's possession. No, that happens at your church every Sunday. Oh, well, that's holy.
Exactly. What? Wait a minute. Isn't whiskey? I don't care if it's Scotch whiskey or if it's...
Somebody sent me a horrible meme yesterday. I forget who it was, but it had Bill Clinton, and it was, Bill Clinton. He just asked me how I like my whiskey. He said, just like I like my women, 12 years old and full of coke. Horrible stuff.
Oh.
But the sad part is it's probably true.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm thinking, and we hate to talk about this, but we have to, we know that they sacrifice children to get the adrenochrome. If you coke a kid up before you put that terror into him, does that increase the terror, would you think, knowing your old expertise in recreational pharmaceuticals? It
charges the soul with an energy that it's like steroids.
So would it be beneficial if you're trying to extract adrenochrome
to
coke up your individual before you terrorize them?
Total saturation.
Interesting.
And by the way, the child sacrificing, it started with these cats.
Oh, yeah. Well, it went all the way back to the book. The story of Cain and Abel is your first biblical story of a human sacrifice. Child sacrifice.
Yes, they took it to the extreme.
They did.
So what does that say about this? You know, in the book of Adam and Eve, it said that Adam was a widower because Lilith had left, or, you know, they don't really get into the story too much of Lilith. But here was the thing.
There's a reason for that.
They said that Adam and Lilith, their child was Eve, and that because of the cataclysm, and it's under ancient Hebraic law still, that in the midst of a cataclysm, a father can take the daughter as his wife.
Ooh, is that why all of the Christian gloom and doomers always want to make us think we're in the middle of a cataclysm?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
In fact, the whole book of Revelation is all about the forthcoming cataclysm. They just added a bunch of narrative to it.
So if you're allowed to take any child you want sexually, if there's a cataclysm, then it's in your best interest to be in the cataclysm business.
Yes, yes.
And eschatology is the cataclysm business.
If it wasn't for the cataclysm, they'd have no foundation.
How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Yet more. I mean, and think of the people that you watch on YouTube that are all about the cataclysm. What else are they about, ladies and gentlemen? Think about it.
They're worshiping death. You know, that's the only thing you can come to. And so,
why would you worship death?
Because it's a money-making business, because people love to be afraid.
They do, and they do.
Yeah, that's why they write their check each week in church. They're wanting to appease God.
It's crazy, man. It really is. It's just crazy. What'd you get?
Well, it's the fact that your tithing is an appeasement.
It's paying. It's a protection.
It's a protection racket. Exactly.
It's the mafia. The mafia says, "What do you mean? You know, we didn't make up this idea. You know,
and
you got your Godfather, we got ours. Hey."
And the prosperity message is, here's the deal. You give me 100, I'll give back 10, and I'll increase that 100-fold.
We used to call it gab it and grab it.
There you go. Exactly. You know, I mean, when I'd file my taxes, you know, each year and see how much money that, you know, quote unquote, you had tithen and given away, I was fully expecting at least the 100-fold return. Did it ever come? No.
So we need somebody in the chat room says Constantine was pagan. No, you got that completely wrong. Constantine was not pagan. Constantine was the accepted Christian religion, and he went about killing everybody that didn't accept that Christian paradigm. They were the pagans. Constantine was not a pagan. Constantine was a good Flavian Christian.
And he sacrificed his wife as a, validation of that.
Was that Constantine?
I think it was.
Did it?
No, Constantine, Constantine was the one who took his mother back to, the Holy Land. And
that's right.
Where they built the first, in self-education of himself, the chapel.
Interesting stuff.
Mrs. Constantine, she was finding out what Elysium was truly about.
Indeed.
But I want to get back to this whole thing, Jeffrey. So I'm all about beginnings, because if you don't know the beginning, how do you know your ending?
And how do you know? What do you say about a God that loves the smell of burning flesh?
Bingo. I mean, what is that about?
Can you smell what the Lord's got cooking? It's a baby.
In this book here, Lamech and Cain, and even this Nephilim, they would lay their hands on animals and transfer their sin.
Scapegoat.
Exactly. But you know what else happened to them? If their sin was particularly great, the animal would explode.
I've never heard that. That's interesting.
It's right here in this book here. I'm going to get you. I'll get you a copy of it. You've got to read this.
Explode.
Literally. And they would lay their hands on them. Oh man, terribly. I mean, Strange. When I read it now in the Cataclysm, they're in the very beginning of survival after the upheaval of prior to Adam and Lilith.
And what did the poor animal ever do?
I don't know that.
It's so inhumane.
And I told you about Leviathan. When they called Leviathan out of the ocean, it produced a whirlpool that literally was spinning off huge waves. Leviathan came up out of the ocean and with his mate, so there was two of them, and Leviathan was so large that it actually cast a shadow over the land that it would rise up above. But the interesting thing was Leviathan could transform itself to a land animal.
Guess what? Oh, it was a dragon?
It was a dragon.
Interesting stuff.
A literal dragon.
Interesting stuff. So Yahweh may be a dragon.
I think Yahweh is reptile.
Oh, here we go. I love the trolls, and I'm glad we have the trolls. So that means that we know that we're actually over the target. Someday, says Max Sumner, Jeff will grow up and overcome the pain of being abused by a cult, and he can develop a coherent and integrated philosophy of his own.
Okay.
Okay, Mac. Do you feel better now? Feel free to actually mix in some text-based criticism instead of your ad hominem patheticness.
Technically, I don't know how to say this to you, Matt, but Christianity is a cult. It's a blood cult.
And I was abused by it.
We all were abused of it. I did a video.
Oh, Jeff is mad at Christianity because his wife left him. My wife leaving is the best thing that ever happened to me, and I'm not mad at I am mad at Christianity because it's enslaving people, and I'm doing everything I can to set people free. If you want to stand next to a poisoned well and not tell people it's poison and let them drink, good for you. Yeah. I can't do it.
I hate to tell you, fellow, you're under the God spell.
Oh, definitely under the God spell. But I love the ones that are under the God spell that want to pretend that they're not.
Yes. Yeah.
We can have the good part of Christianity without the bad part. You know, I did a little series on Jimmy Swaggart, The Message of the Cross. Jimmy's right. Christianity is all about the cross. And you can't have Christianity without the cross, period. Mm. You can't have Christianity without human sacrifice, bloodshed, torture, human sacrifice, and cannibalism. You can't have it. Jimmy's right. The cross is Christianity.
It's a powerful sigil, too.
Yep.
A very powerful sigil. That's why they adapted it.
Yeah.
It's yeah. As you were talking, I guess people don't study. Number one, there is no Jesus. There was no J ever until the new religion, Christianity, was formed, which I guess what Shakespeare, when he, Bacon, when was that? Was that what, 1604, 1605, something like that?
That's when they started working on it. They were done by 1611.
Yeah. I mean, it's his master play, and it's a great Shakespearean play. I mean, the four Gospels.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's four different acts of the same play.
And Tracy Dyer makes another great statement. People don't study. They're spectators.
It's easier. Less accountability.
Much easier. Yeah. Much easier.
Yeah. I challenge, who was the guy who, Mac, here's a question for you. So what was before the Bible? Because remember, we have literally 1,600 years that there was something. So what was it that the faith believed on?
Yeah.
Let's see if he knows.
Who knows? But anyway.
Yeah, and we don't do the homework.
I'm actually leaning more towards Joseph Atwell's interpretation. I was very much on the Francis Bacon as Shakespeare, but I think it was that lady. It wasn't Bacon. That book's next. Shakespeare's Secret Messiah.
Yeah. That's interesting because,
Yeah,
now you got me into, King James's Book of Demonology. I've got to
I've
go
read
back
that
and,
too.
yeah, I mean, and people don't understand that came before their Bible.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
right. The
So,
black woman, Tracy says. Yeah,
yeah. I'm trying to think.
I can't remember her name.
I can't either. Come on, folks. We can do the Jeffrey thing. I mean, the Jeopardy. Dun, dun, dun,
Yeah,
dun.
Sterling says I'm correct, and someone says, so there's no God. Then I would say no. There is an ultimate divine being.
I
I
got a
believe
question
that.
for you. Why would God want worshipers?
I don't think anything that's really divine needs worship or would want it.
If you're telling me that God demands worshipers, that ain't God.
That's right.
It's something else, but it ain't God.
Amelia Bazzano.
Thank you.
Thank
Who
you very
got that
much,
right?
Our Lady.
Our Lady.
Amelia Bazzano.
Are you still with the coffee?
No, that didn't work. It didn't fly. So
Oh, it's a shame
it
because
is.
you know
Oh well.
and hand out some coffee. Well, anyway, so I'm just trying to. Boy, the chat room is going.
It
like,
is. We got a lot of
yeah.
stuff going on.
How many people we got in here? Oh, well, we got a
About
good crowd.
400.
Yeah. I like this. So I have to put this out there. So I read this, and I actually read this from an individual who was really a secularist. That they used the term evil mojo has invaded America.
Really?
So evil mojo, isn't that the same thing as evil spirits, evil entities?
You know what's interesting? And Tracy sent me this, and yesterday at midnight was the last installment. There's actually magical practitioners that have this. There's a book, and there's this whole thing of binding and sending curses on Donald Trump, and they all do it together.
Really?
There's an organized group, and they did their last one was last night at midnight. So I intentionally did some good mojo.
I don't think they understand what they're up against here. The thing is, I'll just say
Maybe they
this.
do, and they're just willing to sacrifice themselves because it's going to come back hard on them.
Yeah. I don't know what the man has, but he's got something.
Yeah.
I keep on hearing that song, Venus, Remember the song back in this?
The people at Saturday Night Live were really actually interested in the entertainment business, Wayne, why haven't they done? They got having a guy parody Adam Schiff and get up there and start with the Ario. I heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from another. You've been messing around. And then comes Pelosi and Schumer, but I don't believe it. And that would be one of the great Saturday Night Live skits of all time. They're not interested in doing real news.
The prophets.
And then Joe Sapien says you got a Donald Trump impersonator coming out in MC Hammer pants. Can't touch this. Oh, that's classic shit right there. Feel free to steal it.
So
Could you imagine Donald Trump can't touch this, doing the little dance
I can see him doing that.
Forth. Can't touch this. Oh, that's too great.
So right before we went live, I was reading the story that he has moved the Oval Office into his residence.
Really?
Yeah.
He doesn't want to get shot.
He doesn't trust anyone.
He doesn't.
And I keep saying, you tried to send some bad mojo on this dude. It's going to come back to you. I mean, and it's proven time after time. Eventually, and I'll just get in the politics of this, Hunter will be indicted.
I think he probably will too.
Yeah.
Trump, you got to stay tuned. That was something I said a long time ago. I've learned things over the last 5 years. So you got to stay up.
And someone says,
got to stay current. But he does want to be, I heard one of his food tasters got sick. Mm-hmm. How bad is it when in the United States of America, You got to have the president with a food taster like it's some medieval. These Democrats, and it's not just the Democrats. We've got to remember. The
No.
Democrats hate, the right hates Trump, and the left hates Trump. All of them hate Trump. That's why I had to say there might be something about this guy.
I feel like he's like with Brutus, Caesar.
Brute.
His traitors are all around.
They are.
I've never seen a time like this.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad when you got to eat McDonald's to make sure you're eating safe.
I don't blame him. It's craziness. It's nuts, and I think it's only going to get more crazier.
I agree. It is, and it's a terrible, terrible place where you've got people that are leaving, that are calling for the death of the president. That never happened. And there's a lot of people that hated Barack Obama, but not once did they ever call for the killing of Barack Obama.
No.
I never heard it once, Wayne. And I'm from the Deep South. I never heard it once.
Never was, because there was civility.
Yeah, and that's what we're missing. And you and Cynthia were talking about before we went online. There is no civility anymore.
No, there is not, and it's getting worse.
There is no civility anymore.
We're hearing crimes up here in the Denver area, and it's not just Denver; it's Colorado Springs, of the most heinous things that you got to ask people. What are people thinking?
What are people thinking?
When you're trying to dissolve a child's body in a bathtub of acid, what are you thinking? We've heard some crazy stuff, and this book, Adam and Eve, one of the things the CIA knew back in 1951, 52, when they found out what was going on, that they realized that there would be a point that in society, violence would become unstoppable. And the one word that they used was uncontrollable rape.
And is the person doing the raping even becoming uncontrollable?
Oh, I don't think you've said this on the, what is it, a soul move-in? Or what's the term?
Walk-in.
A walk-in. I think that the stadium is open.
It's sad. It really is sad. And I get to, you start, why is this person so obsessed with me? Why does this person just come? And I get to the realization, this isn't a person anymore. This is an entity.
It gets back to the whole thing, and I know we may go over a little bit on this, but that's all right. It's the thing that, when you study eschatology and you get back to the creation story, I did a video on it, two creations, two worlds, that you get to Genesis 1, the 6-day man, nothing like the atom, wasn't even made. And this is the startling thing that I found out, Jeffrey. I've read that 1,000 times if I read it once.
Yeah.
The 6-day man in Genesis 1:26 was not formed from the earth.
Really?
Go read it.
He didn't form out of the dust of the ground?
He did Adam.
Adam, it's always been my contention that Adam and Eve were spiritually created. You don't see them being formed out of the dust of the earth. And in Genesis, was it 2 or 3 where he forms the man out of the dust of the earth?
Genesis 2, 7, and 9.
Yeah, 2, 7, and 9.
Yeah.
I've always contended, if you look at, it says in Genesis 1:28, and the Elohim said, let us create man in our image. And they created a male and female, just like the male and female Elohim. And they created them, boom, spiritual beings. And I've always contended Genesis 6 was the Lord's copies created out of the dust of the earth. That's been my line of thought.
So let's take that a step further.
And it's all a fairy tale, probably.
It is all fairy tale, but
we're arguing about whether Mother Goose, whether Hansel was Hansel first or was it Gretel?
I'm not sure. They may have come out.
Which is really Hans und Greta, but anyway.
So if you take that further, then that would imply the Genesis 2:9 man was actually a golem. and Yahweh, the Elohim, breathed the life into the golem and gave him a soul, which was not done in the Genesis 1:26 version.
Wayne, how do we know that we're not all golem
Bingo.
in this body?
Exactly. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
How do we? And if we're all golem, then what has to happen is we have to have a walk-in of our own spirit to take sovereignty back, so we don't wind up being a golem again.
Wouldn't that explain for some people who just have absolutely no empathy at all?
It would. Psychopaths.
Yeah, yeah.
And what about people that got no brains at all? Would that help? Would that help to understand that too?
It's like the Daffy Duck meme. He's walking away and he's saying, well, it's obvious that the damn UFO is not coming back because they dropped all the crazies off here.
You know, what if the UFOs are the same thing as like the, coming across the southern border? Empty out your prisons, empty out your nut houses, and send them north.
Yeah, yeah. Send them to this place.
Give them a few, rent a few kids along the way so they can get in. Wow, maybe it is the same thing.
So technically, you could see where we are golems. I mean, does everyone get the breath of life?
Wow. That's some deep stuff.
It is.
UFOs are just government craft. I think a lot of that is true. A lot of that is true. I'm wondering, everything that we say is extraterrestrial. I think a lot of it might actually be interterrestrial.
It would appear that way.
Yeah. And we know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the floor of the ocean on our own planet.
And we only can guess what's really down in the center of the earth.
Why don't we investigate this place before we start investigating other places?
Because the master race doesn't want intrusions. It's best to keep the low life at the top and let them just go in their mass confusion.
Wayne, did you watch The Man in the High Castle?
I don't think so.
Oh, darn. I hope to get your take on it.
I'll have to watch it now, Jeffrey.
It's over. They just did the last season, and Cynthia and I power watched it. So,
all right, I just missed that. I've really gotten back into the writing. Got the creative juices, the block. I mean, it was there for a long time. So
it can be there.
Yeah. So revising my novel, The Start, and it's got it 3/4 done. And yeah.
Have you seen any good movies lately?
I wish I could say that I have. I've got this thing that I think Hollywood has lost its ability for creativity.
Why? Just because Terminator 17 just came out?
Yeah, I mean, how exciting is that? And I mean,
I told you I'd be back.
I mean, I'm going, okay, all right, fine. I mean, how many times does the Terminator come back and violate the laws of physics and time travel?
But they brought back
Sarah
Arnold
Connor,
Schwarzenegger, and what was her name? Linda Hamilton.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sarah Connor.
Sarah Connor.
No, I think I'm going to wait for the Top Gun.
Dude, I might go midnight show on that one. I'm all about some Tom Cruise and some Top Gun.
Say what you will about Cruise. I mean, I like where the dude's, he's about mental discipline. And
I feel the need
for speed. Yes. Iceman.
Yeah, and Iceman's in the movie, too.
Yeah.
But, it's so funny, and I shouldn't say it, but I will. What's her name? The blonde lady that was in the first movie?
Oh, yes.
Kelly McGillis.
Yes.
Kelly McGillis thinks it's a horrible travesty and it's sexism and all this stuff because they won't have her in the movie, but they got Tom Cruise in the movie and they got Val Kilmer in the movie.
Well, Kelly,
it's not a conspiracy.
You look like the average person's grandma. And that's just not sexy.
And I'm not paying $20 to look at Kelly McGillis. I'm just not going to do it.
She looks like Grace Slick.
$20 not to look at her. But The point of and listen to this: when they announced the movie, Val Kilmer was in terrible shape too.
Yeah, he got his act together.
That, you know what? Val wanted to be in a hit movie. So instead of talking about how bad it was and how everybody was against him, Val went on a diet. Val went to the gym. Val's in the movie. Kelly McGillis, so you got nobody to blame but Kelly McGillis.
Sorry, lady.
Sorry, lady. You ate your way out of that role.
It's like, I'm your huckleberry.
Yeah. Tracy Dyer is she's a apostate. She says she wouldn't pay $20 to look at Tom Cruise. I love Tom Cruise.
You
But you
know,
talk about somebody said, well, Linda Hamilton wasn't any better. Yeah, but Linda got herself in good shape.
Oh, she
to get
did.
back into that movie.
Yeah, she did. You
She
know?
complained that they made her put on some fake boobs, but she's in the
Hey.
movie.
You gotta have the boobs.
Yeah, it's a Terminator movie, man.
You know, we may be machines, but we gotta have the boobs.
Wayne, before I forget about it, I hope you have a happy and prosperous Thanksgiving.
Thank you, sir. We got a house full. You know what I was doing most of the day yesterday? I was polishing furniture.
I knew that I liked Kimmy Moss for a reason. She likes Tom Cruise.
Oh man, listen, in The Mummy, the dude looked.
She didn't get fake boobs, Cynthia. They made her wear padding.
Yeah, that's what we were saying.
Christine G with a scoop. Cruise is a Scientologist, all in caps. Did you know that, Wayne?
I'm shocked.
I'm shocked.
Where the hell did that come from?
Dragon's Rise will go into the pit for Brad. Ooh.
But listen, the dude looked good. I mean, I think when the Mummy came out, he was 55, I think, in that scene.
And he looks great.
God, I tell you what. I mean, you know,
give me respect. And one thing I've always respected about Tom Cruise, I am not a Scientologist. I would not encourage people to join Scientology. And if Tom Cruise were smarter, he would do like Elvis. Elvis was the biggest star in the world. They asked Elvis about the Vietnam War. He said, no, I'm sorry, I'm just an entertainer. But you ask Tom Cruise about Scientology, and he won't shut up. And there's millions of dollars flying out of his mouth with every word that he speaks. But he does still have the courage of his convictions. And I respect that.
Yeah, I don't agree with him, but hey.
I don't agree with him either, but I respect the courage of his convictions.
Yeah, to each his own. I mean, you know, I think that's what people have such a hard problems with you and I is that, you know, it's all right. Whatever you want to believe, cool. You know?
Just as long as my whole idea is to get people all the information so that when they decide what they can believe, they decide from a place of power and not from a con.
I told someone this the other day. They said, well, I only use the Bible. That's my full authority. And I said, you know, let's turn this into a politic question. So what you're saying, that only one voice is going to be allowed. I said, isn't that communism?
It is. And it's stupidity. It is.
I mean,
who only listens to one? All of the options that you have, all of the information that you have at your disposal, and you're going to limit yourself to one book that wasn't even written by the people that you think it was written for.
Certainly wasn't written for the Gentile, but hey, who am I?
It's craziness. It really is.
And then when you learn about history, so when Nebuchadnezzar sent Nebuchadnezzar, I believe I said the last night, ADAM, his chief captain, into Jerusalem and took the Hebrews, Israelite slave. What people don't understand is that the army, Nebuchadnezzar's army, tore down every stone in Jerusalem, and they stripped all the priests and marched them out. What I'm saying is that all the records, all of their ancient text was burned.
Yeah.
The whole Old Testament is a reproduction of Ezra's memory.
And they actually sought out the room in the temple that had all the vestments,
yes,
and all of the parchments in it, and specifically torched it. Cruise is not even close to 5'8", material classified. Tom Cruise is 5'8", standing on a box. Tom's maybe 5'4" at the most.
He's a short guy.
He is a short guy.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, that's, you can have a short man's disease, and it can do something bad to you, or it can do something good to you. It depends how you channel that energy.
The dude's buffed out, man. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. So anyway, man, we're way over time.
Well, it's been enjoyable. Next week, are you all staying in town?
We are staying in town.
I just, and I like Thanksgiving. It is a day to get
Tiberius knew where that room was.
Yeah, he did.
And all the stuff.
Yeah, the same thing happened again. Yeah. And then the backdating of what people try to do for the dating of the New Testament, you're dealing with the backdating of 40 years. Anyway, have a great Thanksgiving, my friend, you and Cynthia.
I think we're going over to one of Cynthia's daughter's house.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yep, and that'll be fun.
Yep, we'll probably be shoveling snow. I think our snowstorm should be over, but anyway. White Thanksgiving this year.
A white Thanksgiving.
Dreaming.
I'm trying to type. I usually don't respond to the chat, but
that's all right. It's been really going. I like the debate. I just think that sometimes people have to respect. Listen, you got your view. We got ours.
Yeah, we do. Well, Wayne, it's been fun. We'll see you again next week. Favor and peace until then.
Thank you, Jeffrey, and to you as well. And Tuesday, folks, check out over on my channel on Kent Humphreys. Jesus Never Existed. Whoever was having the problem, that might help.
When is that?
Tuesday at noon Mountain Time, which is 2:00 Eastern.
Oh, good, because I think we got Laura Eisenhower at 1. But
excellent.
That's Monday.
Okay.
So we won't overlap. I always try not to overlap when I can help it.
Yeah, I try to watch that as well. I was like, all right. But give Laura my best as well.
Absolutely. Take care, and all the best to all of you.
All right. Bye-bye, folks.
Bye-bye.